Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Danny Hernandez and James Gisante. News to get to this week, we're going to start in NXT, where we have a bit of a heavy topic here. WWE has released NXT superstar Nash Carter following allegations from his wife, Kimberly, that he had assaulted her. Now, these allegations came out after NXT's recent decision to put the tag team titles on MSK, which is, if I'm not mistaken, came at Stand and Deliver, James, right?
Sir.
So that all happened over the weekend. There's a lot to this story, and James, I'm going to go to you straight away because you are a lot more well-versed in this than I am. So please give us some more details about what's going on and any opinions you may have about this pretty extraordinary news.
Well, for now, I'll definitely try to keep opinions out of it because things are very much up in the air. Based off what has come out, what people have said, the accusation is former Impact Knockout, because I don't believe she's with the company anymore, Kimberly, who is Nash Carter's wife, has come out and said that he has physically assaulted her on at least one occasion, if not a few. And she has come out with pictures showing herself looking pretty battered. And she's saying that Nash is to blame. Nash was then released today after, like you said, winning the tag titles. And since then, his tag team partner, Wesley's wife, has come out in defense of Nash Carter, backing her statement, saying that, first stating that he hasn't seen Kimber in months, that he himself has tried to avoid her, as in I think even tried filing for a restraining order. They tried doing therapy once, but he couldn't be a part of it. He didn't want to be a part of it, and he wanted away from her. And this is all the while Kimberly has come out and said that she doesn't know Wesley's wife. She just knows of her. She's come out and said that Wesley's wife is a drug user and that Wesley has cheated on her multiple times. And again, not saying to not know her. And then Wes's wife has come out with pictures of them together at a wedding. I forget which couple's wedding. Text messages between the two, Instagram comments between the two. And I don't want to say that this discredits anything from Kimberly, but it's already starting to show that she's not being 100% honest with her story or how she's presenting her story. Wesley's wife has said that Nash has been living with them for a while now too, as all this has been going on. So again, I'm trying to keep my own opinions on this out of it, but factually, I think we can all agree this seems like a mess. And it's incredibly messy in a professional standpoint. You have your champion get fired. And personally, it's sad. You know, you never want to see stories like this. You never want to hear about somebody who may or may not be abusive, or whether or not the person standing up with these claims may or may not be telling the truth. So overall, this is just a really sad story. I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to believe, but I can say something that's very intriguing to me is how quickly WWE has acted in this, because we've seen people be accused of things in the past and WWE either does nothing, or if they do take action, it takes a long time for action to happen. I think there was only one instance of somebody in recent years who had an accusation against them who was immediately released, and I think that was Jack Gallagher, former cruiserweight. So the fact that this happened so quickly means one of two things to me. Either they are terrified of this story and they just would rather not deal with it, or they have some evidence that really makes them believe that it's true. Again, that's just speculation. WWE has not come out and said that they have evidence to back up why they would do this, but just based off the past, that's where my head goes. And it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out for MSK, for Carter himself. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out for the tag division in NXT. And unfortunately, more importantly, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with Kimberly and just all of the people involved in a real life way.
Yeah, I apologize for asking for your opinion. That's actually what I wanted. I should have worded it better. I wanted what you want, what you said about WWE releasing him and so quickly, especially as a reigning champion. That's a very bold move, I think, to make, releasing a champion like that, especially so quickly after these allegations have come out. I mean, this is a more recent and quickly developing story. So a lot of information is coming out very quickly, and there's probably going to be stuff that's come out even after this episode airs, or even probably before this episode airs and after we finish recording. So yeah, it's a very hard to form an opinion on the events itself. So I appreciate you not wanting to get in the mud there.
It's a very complicated story, and only the people involved truly know what's going on. So otherwise it would kind of just be irresponsible to give my opinion on it. But I want to give it to Danny, but before I do, I do want to say, I know I brought up the Jack Gallagher of it all, but there was another story before it, and which feels even more similar, and that'd be the Enzo Amore story. A champion who got fired while champion. And I don't want to draw, because it turned out that it seemed that WWE fired him more for not warning them about it than the actual allegation. So maybe that's another thing that came into play here too. But again, if this has been something that's been going on for months, I'd imagine WWE had some knowledge of it. But this is going to be, I just keep saying this word, messy, but it's going to be complicated for a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, definitely. Messy is definitely the word I would use here. If it's not too crass, I wouldn't mind, Danny, talking a little bit about what's going to happen with the tag team division in NXT now. Obviously, you lose half of your champions. I would imagine MSK, the other member of MSK, Wes Lee, is going to be stripped of the title. And now you have that whole mess, and you have what is going to become of Wes Lee's career, perhaps at least in the short term, as a singles guy.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think James put everything really well with the details we know of the story so far. And like you guys said, it's hard to form opinions on it, especially when we just don't know everything to really make a conclusion about it. But as for the kayfabe of it all, I'm not too. I mean, I feel bad for Wes Lee because again, and it's purely removing the real life potential horribleness of this all, just strictly talking in a kayfabe sense. There's a guy losing his spot because of something completely out of his control, and again, in only the context of just kayfabe, kind of sucks. But I'm not as up to date on NXT, so I actually don't know what tag teams are even there. I don't know who they beat for them. I don't know who they.
Where's Chad when you need him?
Yeah, seriously, Chad, come on. There was no fast forward, so I don't know what happened. But there's no problem. They can just hold a little tournament. This kind of thing usually leads to good TV, good action. Whenever there's a champion stripped of a championship for, usually bad, but, not egregious reasons. Usually it's injury or something like that. But whenever someone is stripped of a title and they have to panic on the fly and get a new champion, they usually pull something good out. So in-ring wise, I am sure that we'll get something good out of this. Or who did they beat? James, who did they beat on Stand and Deliver?
I'll be honest, I got there late for the show, so I missed that match. But we'll talk about that later in
Damn
the
it,
pod.
Chad.
All right. So whoever they
but
beat,
hold on, I'll look it up now.
it's not that important, but whoever they beat can literally just win the titles back. Because look what happened with Toxic Attraction. They just won the titles right back. I do know that happened on NXT last night.
That did.
Yeah, so they can just revert back to how it was a week ago.
So if rumors are, so they beat, it was a multi-man match. It was against Imperium, the Creed brothers. Yeah, they defeated Imperium and the Creed brothers. Imperium were the tag team champions, and if rumors are to believe, there will not be an Imperium in NXT for much longer. So I don't know. Maybe the Creed
didn't
brothers.
One of them walk out on the other one on NXT last night? I don't know. See, again, if Chad just did a fast forward, I would know all this information.
Yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
Chad.
I'm only, Chad, you're not here to defend yourself, so.
Bully.
Yeah, it's overall, obviously the stories that like the NXT that come out of this aren't as important as the real life stories that come out of the situation, but just in terms of what's going to happen next, the tag titles, I'm sure we're going to get some really good matches in the next couple of weeks to determine that, so we'll see. I don't know if this means that Wesley will be off TV completely or, just have to cut it as a singles guy. Who knows? Maybe he has a new partner and pretends it's the same person and just gaslights him like with another character we'll talk about later, but who knows?
Yeah, my apologies for throwing that dead fish in your lap. I really wanted to talk about what's going to happen in NXT, and then Chad's not here. And
I just thought you didn't trust me to talk about the very serious subject matter and wanted to diverge the conversation topic.
Oh, yeah, a little column A, a little column B. All right. Well, let's move away from the serious topic and move back into WrestleMania weekend a bit. So apparently Alexa Bliss wasn't invited to WrestleMania weekend. She wasn't flown out for anything, which is odd considering you have things like the Hall of Fame ceremony and WrestleMania Access, which even people who have nothing to do with that weekend seem to attend. And she hasn't been on the card pretty much since, I believe it was Elimination Chamber. So this is weird. No one's really sure if they just have nothing for her or she's in some sort of trouble. And based on her tweets, Danny, not even Alexa Bliss knows what's going on.
Yeah, she is, all wrestlers go through this phase where you give in to social media and you start liking tweets that, maybe you shouldn't like because news outlets are going to pick up on it and be like, oh, so-and-so like this disgruntled tweet, but she's just not even doing that. She's just straight up replying to some of these people who are like, why aren't you on TV? And she's like, I don't have a clue. It's like, oh, I'm here just waiting, and even you mentioned WrestleMania Access, there was I believe there was a booth with like her swing set and stuff that you could take pictures in, but there's no Alexa Bliss, but they have her characters,
Cardboard cutout of her.
Yeah, which is really weird because there's got to be something weird to this because Alexa is one of their absolute favorite people in the whole roster. Like it's always been very, very clear. She hosted the WrestleMania we were all at. Like they clearly love her very much that they
forgot about that too.
Gave her that spot. Granted, Titus O'Neil hosts for WrestleMania too, but they love him in weird ways too. But
that WrestleMania was so long, I forgot half of it between that and the amount of alcohol I drank last night, or that night, and last night, but that night. And B, Titus is really good in those situations. He's a great face for the company, so that's why they always give him stuff like that.
It also gave us a beautiful moment of Titus getting a huge cheer in comparison to Hulk Hogan just getting booed the fuck out of the arena.
Yes, that was
beautiful.
Great.
Yeah, so they clearly love Alexa Bliss very, very much. So this absence of hers, it's so strange. I think, if we're just speculating, we can clearly tie it back to Bray Wyatt being released. Just her trajectory has changed drastically since then, even though before he got released, they did split off, but I feel like there was maybe going to be a payoff to that at some point. And by payoff, I mean WWE was going to do something. Maybe it wouldn't have been satisfying, but it would have technically classified as a payoff. She had the feud with Charlotte. I believe at the time she took some time off to heal up some injuries, and I know she's set to marry Ryan Cabrera, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of those generic pop stars from like 15 years ago. What? I mean, that's true. It's not even like, I'm not even being mean there. On the Way Down was like, he's like a one-hit wonder. But anyway, sorry, I got a little tangent. But they've always loved her. She's someone who's bordered on the closer to the Charlotte end of the spectrum than most people have. There was a time when her and Charlotte were neck and neck in title reigns before Alexa got concussions, essentially. And without Ronda Rousey concussion, Alexa probably would have had like 3 more title reigns in that time period. So she's always been someone that we're always going to push, and she's always like has something to do. She's never really been off TV. She was an authority figure too. She also WrestleMania. She was essentially an authority figure for a while, because even when she was hurt, they put her on TV. So I don't know. It's like I said, I think it's got to be a weird combination of the circumstances and just giving her some time off to heal up injuries, and now not knowing what to do with her the same way that, Asuka, even before she was hurt, had nothing to do, the same way Bayley had nothing to do last year's WrestleMania. I think they've hit a point where sometimes they like people so much, but when they don't have anything to do with them, they don't know what to do. And the kind of side note, but everyone keeps saying that they want Alexa to stop being this Fiend character and just go back to the Goddess. And I disagree. I don't want her to go back to the Goddess. I think that was played out and it's run its course. Because I think Alexa's good. I don't think Alexa's amazing. I think she has improved a lot in the ring, and I think she's a great talker. But the Goddess was at like Charlotte levels of, you're here too much, you win too much. She ruined Bayley's babyface run. Like, it's her fault. It's not Alexa the person's fault, but it's her character's fault because they decided to put the title on her.
Bayley, this is your life.
Yeah.
One of the worst segments of all time.
I'd rather Alexa never go back to being the Goddess and either just find something to do with this Fiend character or change characters completely. Don't revert, go forward.
I was kind of enjoying Alexa Bliss interviewer with a cup of coffee for a while, whatever that bit was.
That's another, like, they give her a talk show. Like,
yep.
She was the first woman to get a talk show. Like, they love her so much.
Yeah, no, they really, really try to put her on TV for so long, and then she was out for a while, I guess, with injuries, and then they brought her back semi-recently with the therapy segments, and then she came back for Elimination Chamber, and I think a feud with Charlotte, or whatever the hell it was. And all of a sudden,
it literally was just for Elimination Chamber. She was in the match, she lost, and then disappeared again. Which, sorry, you just reminded me of another point I wanted to bring up. Bianca cut a promo on Raw, and that was it. No one came out. Becky didn't come out, but I'm kind of thinking Becky's just going to take some time off. But that was so easy. You just have Alexa return, Bayley return, Asuka return, Lacey Evans return, anyone return to start a program with Bianca. What a perfect spot for Alexa, who is ready to go. Asuka might not be physically ready. Bayley might not be physically ready. I'm pretty sure Lacey is too, but like, it's so easy. You just bring Alexa back. Bianca has her first feud. Alexa has something to do. And it's so easy. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's a completely fair point. It's just such an odd thing after that elimination chamber, which I granted it was in Saudi Arabia, but she was getting cheered a lot. So you have that and it's some seemingly building momentum, James, and then you just take her off of TV. Do you think that is because of this whole Fiend character and they just want to take even more time to try to separate the two? Or do you think it's something else?
100% about to interrupt James because Rev, you made another great point that I just want to highlight real quick because you said she was oversaw in Saudi Arabia, but you said granted it's in Saudi Arabia. I actually think Saudi Arabia, for all of the flaws you can point out with it, it's a great metric of who your stars really are, because the people who get the biggest reactions there are your stars. So obviously the legends get all the big reactions, but the people who aren't those people who get the big reactions, like Becky Lynch did, like Roman Reigns did, like Alexa did, like others, but I can't remember right now. Like the Fiend did, kind of, but he was already kind of ruined at that point. But that it's a great metric of who's really over, because they're a weird combination of fans who are in the bubble, but they're also casual fans. So you've even just highlighted how big of a star she is to the company with that as a throwaway line. Yeah. You were saying, James.
I agree with everything you said, and I think you said it better than I could. It's just a weird situation with her, given that she's not a mid-carder to them. She's somebody that they very clearly value. They created roles for her, and now they either can't seem to find something for her to do, which would be crazy, or maybe she upset someone backstage. But even that just doesn't seem like her. It doesn't seem like something that would have happened, or would have happened with somebody important enough that this would be happening. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate wildly, but how do you not have something to do for her when she's so talented? And she's a huge merch mover. Like,
Yeah.
the Lily doll sells like crazy. Like they were selling, I've never seen it before this weekend, Lily masks. Like, there were so many women there dressed like Alexa Bliss. So many women there rocking Alexa Bliss merch. My girlfriend being one of them. Like, she's a casual watcher, but she loves Alexa Bliss. And she hated Alexa at first, but she, like, after really starting to watch her, she was like, oh my God, this person is talented. I like her shtick. And she just kept going with it. So even she appeals to the hardcore fans. She appeals to the casual fans. And something's got to be up. Something we don't know about has got to be going up. And if Alexa doesn't know what it is, I don't know if I believe that, or if it's just she doesn't want to talk about it because she's smart enough not to talk about it. But this is an unfortunate situation for a division that needs people. WWE's women's division always runs thin, and Alexa Bliss is somebody you could just plug in at any point, and you've got a genuine contender there. So this is, in my opinion, silly. Like, other than a medical reason, there is no reason she is not on television.
And she has one of the most hardcore fan bases in the world, because the way I'm
look at her Twitter, yeah, she definitely does.
Yeah, it seems like I'm not even a big Alexa Bliss fan, and I still find this baffling, because like I said, she was one of those people I was getting sick of her. I'm like, bro, you're over pushed. And then she took enough time out of the spotlight where it's okay, you're aware enough to know it's time to step away, or the company was aware enough to know it's time to step away, and now they don't know what they're doing with her. It's weird, because like you said, she sells merch, kids love her, women love her. It's, what more do you want?
Yeah, and any iteration of Alexa is moving merch and getting over all the way from the beginning. The goddess, the talk show host, the creepy Fiend sister person. She does great, and it's an instant feud with Bianca and a fresh one for her. At least I'm pretty sure. I don't think they faced off.
Yeah, it's fresh.
No.
Yeah, so that's a fresh feud for Bianca right off the bat, the second she shows up. And they're just, having her sit on the couch, which I mean, I guess means more time for wedding planning for her, but I don't know. All I'm going to say is I don't know how you leave someone at home who has their own song by Bowling for Soup. So
That would have been so cool 15 years ago.
it's such a good song, though.
It is not a good song.
It's the perfect encapsulation of 15 years ago. So it works for me.
Oh, man.
I've always kind of been a Bowling for Soup fan. All right, let's move
I
on.
almost liked it.
The music video is actually pretty good. Let's move on. Stick with WrestleMania, but our own James Gisante was at WrestleMania this weekend. So, James, you haven't really had a chance outside of the couple of videos you did to really talk about how WrestleMania was for you this weekend. And, not just night 1 and 2 of the show itself, but you went to the Hall of Fame. You checked out Access, I believe. You went to some of the cons. So we'd love to hear some of the highlights of what you did this weekend.
First of all, I would just like to say I am exhausted, and I will be exhausted for a long time. I am 2 years off from WrestleMania. For me, has definitely drained my stamina, but it was an awesome weekend. Third time in Texas for me for WrestleMania, and I can't complain about a single thing, really. Every show I went to, every event I went to was so much fun. I hopped off the plane and immediately went to WrestleCon, and so many stars there, so many fun wrestlers to interact with, so many people outside of the WWE bubble. And it was cool seeing so many big names. It was cool seeing so many legends, so many up and coming talent. And I got to meet people that I would never get a normal chance to interact with at a wrestling show. I got to meet Minoru Suzuki. I got to meet Jay White. I got to meet the Inspiration, formerly known as the Iconics. The highlight for me was definitely Trish Stratus. I've been a fan of hers since I was a kid, and she's just so humble and so cool. And at this point, my dad and Tommy Dreamer have spoken so much, so often, on so many different occasions, that I'm surprised they don't have each other's cell phone numbers. But
that doesn't surprise me at all that your dad and Tommy Dreamer are boys.
They bump into each other at in Yonkers. They bump into each other at Toyota. It's weird, man. And every time Dreamer is cool to my dad. So I know Dreamer sometimes in hot water, but he was cool with my dad, so I can't give him too much shit. So yeah, WrestleCon was a blast. They put on a bunch of free wrestling shows, some paid wrestling shows, but just a ticket in the door, you're getting to watch wrestling for nothing. So it was cool. That night I went to SmackDown, and believe me, I was debating and wrestling myself over that decision because I wanted to go to Ring of Honor so bad. But seeing the Undertaker inducted into the Hall of Fame was an incredible moment. It felt like the end, corny as it sounds, the end of an era. One guy straight up traveled all the way to Texas simply to see Undertaker get inducted. He didn't go to WrestleMania. He didn't go to any of the other shows. He flew there to see him get inducted, and then he went home the next day. So I think that speaks to how powerful a moment it was, and the crowd ate up everything Taker said. And let me just say, because here on the pod, I know we were all expecting a very smarky crowd. We were expecting AEW chants. We were expecting Cody Rhodes sucks chants on Raw. Man, being there at Mania, being there on Monday Night Raw, Cody Rhodes was treated like the prodigal son. He was treated like the returning hero, and I was not expecting it. I went with my dad to basically every event, and my dad is a talker. So he's talking to the kids, he's talking to the adults, he's talking to the old people, and he's asking, so do you guys watch AEW? very few people said they watched AEW. Very few people went to these events having gone to anything else. It was WWE only for a lot of these people.
See, I was saying in our group chat yesterday when we were talking about it that I think WWE has created an actual divide in the last 2 years between their audience and AEW. And I think there's of course going to be overlap, but the overlap is more like people who watch AEW will still watch WWE as opposed to, the people watching WWE are like, oh, I'm going to watch AEW. I think they've actually done a good job, and they do have their bubble. Like, where the AEW fan base they're not going to WWE shows anymore, because why would they? They're the ones who are very adamantly against the WWE product, so they're not going to spend money and go there anymore. So the only people going to WWE shows now are the WWE fans. So they have secured their bubble in a way. So I'm not, as much as I was surprised in the moment, the more I thought about it, I'm not that surprised. I'm just more surprised that happened as opposed to like anything else.
Honestly, James, you saying that doesn't really maybe surprise me as much as it does you, Danny, because there is a lot of tribalism between the fans of these two companies. Like, I see it all the time on Reddit. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. So I'm not really surprised that there wasn't too many AEW fans there going to the WWE shows. I'm sure a lot of them who were there probably went to the Ring of Honor show and WrestleCon and maybe some of the other indie stuff, and maybe that was it.
From what I saw from the people I interacted with, yes, that was the case. There were people at WrestleCon who were very clearly more than just WWE fans who said, yeah, I'm going to WrestleMania. And then there were other people but it did not go the other way. And thankfully, I didn't see anybody shitting on AEW, which if they did, that's their right. Just like we'll criticize WWE sometimes. Like, if you want to criticize AEW, you should. But I didn't see any out and out disrespect between the brands, as much as I did not see any overlap, as Danny said. You were either in that WWE bubble or nothing, really. There was very few people, and I was shocked because I'm a veteran at this now. I've been to more manias than some people on the roster, and I could say, like, I've been to manias where you'll hear like stupid little TNA chants, especially like during the peak of TNA and even after the fall of it too. And you would like Ring of Honor chants, I would see that, but nothing for AEW. So it's very interesting how this company is being viewed compared to others. And I guess that means they're doing something right. I guess that means they are actual competition, as much as WWE doesn't want to admit, unless they're under a legal court order with a document. But yeah, I was very surprised with that, but that's fine because I wasn't going to WrestleMania to start an AEW chant. I wasn't going to Monday Night Raw to specifically tell Cody to fuck off, even though I was looking forward to it. But it was a very interesting dynamic. And yeah, there was a lot of fun stuff. Austin was by far the highlight for so many people. I've never seen a Steve Austin match live. This was my first, and what will probably be only time I'll get to do it. Undertaker coming out 2 nights at Mania, it was cool if you're there. It kind of sucks when you think about it, when you have a match like New Days just get completely butchered and have no time whatsoever. Like, that was a little weird.
That was a sin.
But other than the 2 big stinker matches, which were Ronda Charlotte and Roman Brock, these were passionate fans. These were loud fans. They ate up everything. The Knoxville Sami Zayn match, people were going crazy how much fun they had. And everyone more or less played along. Nobody was trying to get themselves over. Not really. Nobody was trying to make it about something that it wasn't.
No beach balls?
No, not a single beach ball. But admittedly, and that was going to be to my next point, these Monday Night Raws after Mania do not feel like the must-attend events they used to. I've been there for some big ones. I was there when Roman Reigns had that incredible moment where the crowds are just saying, like, telling him to like fuck off, and all he said was, "This is my yard now." That was incredible. I was there when Dolph Ziggler cashed in Money in the Bank. That was incredible. I was there for some big moments. The big moment of this one was Cody's promo and Braun Breaker winning the NXT title, and the debut of Elias's younger brother. But it was a weird Raw. It didn't feel special at all. That's the one downer I could say, that the Monday Night Raw after Mania did not feel special.
I think that applies to watching too, because it felt funny because when B and Chad were talking about night one, we were being a little harsher on it than the overall, what seemed to be the overall consensus of the people who watched it. Like I would say I found the show like somewhere in the middle. I don't think either of the first two matches deserved to be on Mania, let alone delivered in any way. And granted, Boogs got hurt, but even without that, I don't think that match should have been there and would have been worthy of being there. But I thought Bianca and Becky stole the show. I thought Cody Seth was amazing, and I thought Logan Paul was really good and the only star in that match. But the middle section was very, very good. But then the Ronda Charlotte happened, and and the main event, I went back and forth on it. It was dumb, but it was fun. I think it went on too long. But if I was there, that's a whole different story. Obviously, being there, that's going to be amazing. So I was already immediately oh wow, okay, everyone seems to like this. And then I think the overall consensus for a lot of people was oh, Mania was really good this year, and they were excited oh, I'm going to watch Raw for the first time in a long time, because it's oh, Mania was good. I know one of my friends who just watches AEW wanted to hear what Cody has to say, and he watched Raw and he was just that was kind of disappointing. He's I like the Cody stuff and I kind of want to see what he does, but he's what's the big deal about Veer? I don't get it. And I was oh, it's like Hook but not as good, and never gonna work. But I think they had so many people interested and were checking out Raw for the first time, which reflected in the ratings, because the ratings were up massively this week. But they didn't do anything to capitalize. So any of those people who were interested and checked it out aren't going to check it out going forward. They're okay, well, I'm not going to watch anymore, but maybe I'll watch when the big stuff happens.
I had to explain to my friends who Veer was, and I was just they were all sports fans. I was yeah, you ever see $1 Million Arm with John Hamm? He's one of the guys from that. He got signed by the Pirates and then washed out in single A, and now he's a wrestler. And they're what? And then somebody posted a picture of him on the Pirates, and everyone freaked out. It's weird, man. Go look him up on the Pirates and look at him now. He's a completely different dude. But
I believe it.
Yeah. James, I wanted to ask you, though, how is Dallas as a host city? And then how is Jerry World as an arena, especially with WrestleMania? Because at least my WrestleMania experience is getting stuck outside of MetLife for 45 minutes in the pouring rain. So I was wondering how all of that went.
Dallas was definitely a fun place to be. Lots of barbecue. I just missed Bret Hart by 5 minutes at one of the barbecue places I went to. I sat down 2 tables away from Billy Gunn and Al Snow at another barbecue place. So all the wrestlers knew where to go to eat. Jerry World, there was one constant thing I heard all weekend. Man, I fucking hate the Cowboys, but that's a beautiful stadium. I was so happy to be in that stadium. It was so gorgeous. But man, I hate the Cowboys. And while I disagree,
oh, fuck the Cowboys.
You know what? We'll save it for fantasy.
Liking the Cowboys is such a terrible personality trait.
All right. They're not my team, but I have respect for them. Regardless.
I don't care about the Cowboys. I just wanted to give you a hard time.
Bust my balls. I appreciate it, and you. But it was a fun arena. It was a big arena, and you know what? It's gonna bring up something I hate, but I get it. WrestleMania over the 2 nights had 70 something thousand people.
I think it was like
That's
77,
a lie.
78
And
announced.
I'm sure it was in the 70s. Do I think it was 78,000 like they said for night 2? No. But I'd be shocked if it wasn't in the 70s. I get why WWE is doing these 2-night events, because man, why sell out an arena for one night and maybe make 100,000 ticket sales when you could do it 2 nights in a row and get 140,000 between the 70 that you get both nights.
You know what's crazy too is I was reading somewhere they could sell more tickets, but I guess maybe it was just the stage or whatever. Like
I think
they usually pack more people in there, more than the
we've
quote
been there
unquote
before.
sellout of 78,000.
I've been to that arena before for WrestleMania, and they had around 100,000 that one time.
Yeah.
So I think we're dealing with a little bit of still some people being afraid to travel due to COVID, and some people not being able to afford both nights, and they don't want to feel like if they pick the wrong night, it's a waste. So they just don't do either. So I think there are a couple of factors to why they didn't sell out, but it felt like a sellout. I was there.
Well, they called it one.
Yeah, of course they would. They always do.
Yeah.
But I very much, as someone who is attending, I hate the 2-night system. I hate it. I would rather go through one long day of WrestleMania than have it spread over 2 days and then just cram everything else in. Like, I legit had to do NXT, hop out into the car, drive over to be there for Mania. That's a tough day. That's a tough day. And I would rather just say my Sunday is dedicated to WrestleMania. I'm going to be tired, but that's why I traveled across the country. But I can't imagine we're ever going back to the 1-day WrestleMania.
Nah, I mean, even Seth Rollins at an interview earlier today that came out with Sports Illustrated was like, yeah, the 1-night system, it was good when we only had like 8 matches on the card. Now we have like 16, 17, 18. And then he brought up the WrestleMania we were at in the Meadowlands, where he was like, my wife won 2 titles that night. She wasn't on until midnight, after midnight. The crowd was dead, and then we all got stuck in the rain. Like, they're just not going to go back just because, like, the logistics of it for the card, and then subsequently, I think the fans. I know, like, over 2 days it's rough, but I think, like, for the most part, it's just way easier.
I think, truth be told, it goes back to what I said. They're making more money this way.
But yeah, the answer is always money.
They're selling 2 tickets as opposed to 1 ticket. So it didn't matter that their attendance was lower. Over 2 nights, they had more than what they had when they broke their own record last time they were there. That's what I think it comes down to. We've seen WrestleMania, like, WWE has always had a bloated roster. It's had it for decades. It had it since WCW went out of business, but it didn't always have to be an 8-hour show. You just got to know how to book your show. Over a 2-night event, they didn't have the United States Championship or the Intercontinental Championship defended.
And over 4 nights, because they didn't do it on Raw or SmackDown either.
Well, SmackDown, they had the Intercontinental title defended. They had in a very good triple threat match between Ricochet, Humberto Carrillo, and Angel Garza.
I will disagree with you immediately. It was not a very good match. It was a bad match with a great last 3 minutes.
I will meet you in the middle and say it was an enjoyable match.
I will not meet you in the middle.
Son of a bitch.
And say that it was the standard, the 2 heels can't figure out what to do in a triple threat match because they both want to win and they're heels, and it's a bad formula, but the ending was super cool. So that's the only thing that salvages it for me.
And then Finn got
fantastic.
And then Finn got stuck in the armbar.
And he lost in the same night. He lost twice.
He lost twice because they put him in the main event too, and he lost that, and then he lost on Raw. That he took the pin on Raw too.
He lost the armbar too. Yeah.
It was a tough weekend to be a Finn fan. That really sucked. But
not a tough weekend because he wasn't there. But
yeah, fair.
At least he was there. Alexa Bliss wasn't even fucking invited.
God. Overall, being there, it was a great time. It was a fun time. lots of special moments, lots of special memories, and everyone enjoyed themselves. I didn't see anybody have a downer. If you were there because you wanted to have fun, and you had that fun. So once again, WrestleMania accomplished its goal for those in attendance.
The millions watching at home.
And the millions and millions watching at home. I will 100% be going again next year. And LA, all right, I will say there was one thing that fans were consistently disappointed on for both night 2 and then Raw. People were expecting The Rock. People were expecting The Rock after the main event with Roman and Brock, and they were expecting The Rock after when Roman cut the promo. I don't know if it made it on TV for Raw, but there was a loud Rocky chant. And
I don't think it did.
Yeah, no, on Raw, at least, there was a loud Rocky chant. WrestleMania, I saw lots of fans waiting for it, but I don't think that one got a big chant. But fans, like everyone I was talking to was just like, yeah, The Rock is totally coming tonight. He didn't come tonight. He's totally going to be here tonight. Oh, no, of course. I think it's just Mania was on them, because even I kind of thought Rock would be there for Mania just to set up for next year. And because
I don't think that's happening anymore.
Rock wants it to happen. Apparently Rock wants it to happen. Rock wants to do it. I think they're just trying to figure out the legalities of it, given the insurances and everything. But he wants, from all reports are saying he wants to do it. But I think the mania of it all, people, I understand, jumping the gun on that, but with how lackluster Raw was, I think fans were then getting, like, as the night was going on, fans were just like, all right, if the night is sucking as much as it is, like, at least we're gonna get The Rock at the end of it to make up for it. And the disappointment, like, fans were that was the one thing I saw fans get annoyed with.
I still think that's on them, but I get it, because that's just what we've all assumed is going to happen for years now. So I understand that. Kind of random, but James, were you at the random episode of Raw in the Barclays Center where The Rock came out and interrupted Rusev?
It is. I wasn't there for it.
I was
regret
there
it.
for that.
You were there for it?
Yeah. Oh my God. That was so fucking cool. I literally had it took me I had a delayed reaction to be like, this isn't really happening. Why would The Rock come out right now? Why?
Buried the fuck out of Rusev for no reason. So
I regretted it so much because I wanted to go to that show, but it was just like, I think I had done a good amount of wrestling previously, like within the last couple of months, and I was like, all right, I don't gotta go to this. It's just gonna be a Monday Night Raw. It doesn't matter. And then The Rock's music plays, and I'm trying to run out the door and see if I could get to Brooklyn fast enough before his segment's over. But you can't be there for all of them.
That's fair. But it's like being there in person. What was your experience with some of the matches? Because I feel like the internet has a pretty universal consensus about which matches were good and which ones weren't, but it kind of already sounds like they're you being there live already agrees with a lot of it. Like the Ronda Charlotte was disappointing, yep. Roman Brock was disappointed, which I'm sorry for you because I know that's one of your guys, so that sucks. When you're one of the people going there for it, that's why I'm partial on AJ Styles matches at Mania, because I feel like he's just not living up to it. But
it's also over 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Match wise, I liked pretty much everything. I can't even say that I hated the Roman Brock match. It just very much felt like, okay, they're finally gonna get into that next gear, that next level. That match is finally gonna blow up. And then he hit the super spear that he did on Taker, but instead he hit it on Brock's back. And I remember everyone was looking and the hell just happened? People were confused by the super spear. I'd say the most fun match of the weekend was Sammy and Knoxville. That was a great fun match. The crowd ate it up, and then I got lucky. I got to meet Jeff Tremaine. I got to meet Wee Man. I got to meet Chris Pontius. I just missed Knoxville, but that was fun. Trying to think what else did I love. Like I did, again, seeing Austin was just awesome. And then the next night, when Vince and Theory are doing their thing. All right, that was another one. Pat McAfee earned everyone's respect that night. Like, people already liked Pat from his NXT work and just being such a fun guy, but it went from being a match that people were excited for to it was a match that people loved justifiably. I was super into it. And then Austin coming out and hitting that stunner on Vince was just
the worst stunner of all time.
Yes, it was the worst stunner of all time, but I also got to see Vince McMahon stun Vince. I got to see Stone Cold Steve Austin stun Vince McMahon.
Sort
you
of.
know, sort of.
Okay, so did because this was, I think, my favorite part of that whole segment, and I don't know if you would have seen this being there live, but maybe you've seen it since. After Stone Cold stuns Pat McAfee, and a random shot, they cut to Pat McAfee on the floor outside, and he's like half conscious, pouring a beer down while he's on the floor. It was maybe the best thing of WrestleMania weekend. It was just such a funny, subtle moment.
It was great. They showed it on the big screen, and we all
died.
Did they? Yeah,
That's
they knew what they were doing.
Pat said he was hungover as fuck on his show the next day.
He said he had like 30 beers.
I believe it. He probably was drinking with Stone Cold, to be honest.
Oh God,
which was probably the highlight of his life.
It was, man. Oh, not Mania, but SmackDown. Nobody gave a shit about Madcap Moss winning.
I believe it.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Like, we knew it was coming, or at least some of us knew it was coming based off the Final Four. But we were still just more disappointed that Finn didn't win than we were Madcap Moss actually winning. And yeah, I loved Mania. It's always a fun event. I always tell every wrestling fan, if you can do it once, you should try to do it. And I like I said, I missed it over the last 2 years, and I'm glad I got to do it this year.
Yeah, I kind of wish. I mean, I went to WrestleMania 35, and I went for one reason and one reason alone. And anyone who's watched this podcast for long enough can guess what that reason is. But I would like to do like a traveling one, like actually go. Maybe I don't want to go to everything. Like, I would never go to Stand and Deliver. That sounds. To go to something in the afternoon, to go to WrestleMania that night sounds torturous. I'd rather not, but to go to like some of the cons or whatever, just be out and about in a different place actually sounds like really cool and a really fun experience.
I would love if we could, as a podcast, do it. If not for next year, or for 40 would be great. But
I mean, I could show you how to hold your phone to take good videos.
I first of all, and I was getting roasted for this. I have a 7+ because of this friggin' button. Okay, I want the button. I will not get rid of the button until this phone finally just dies on me.
Get or this Android, they all have buttons.
Go away, you pod person. Okay. Wow. Anyway, for those who actually care, Apple. Yeah. Anyway, I am most likely getting a new phone this week because of the peer pressure, not because I want the phone. But
it's too late now. What good does it do now?
I'll be going to Dynamite in New Orleans next week, and then later in the month I'll be watching NEW, and I'll be covering stuff for both shows. So guys that are watching, know I've got stuff coming for you, and I will hopefully have it on a higher resolution camera.
All right, we've gone a little long on this, but that's okay. I want to do two more things from WrestleMania weekend, James. And one is kind of the last thing we wanted to do. How did the whole Ezekiel thing go over? Because Danny fucking loves this. So I want to know how it went over in the crowd. And Danny, you can sing your praises.
I swear to God, like this is honest me. I swear to God, he came out, and for a split second, I didn't know what the fuck I was looking at. I didn't know who I was looking at. I'm like, they're really just bringing out a jobber for Owens? Like, that's a weird segment. And then they actually have him on the big screen. They have him on as he's walking down. I'm like, oh my God, that's Elias. And everyone around me is like, whoa, what? And I'm like, Elias, you remember the guy with the guitar? You're like, oh my God, Elias. And then some people just don't believe me. People are like, that's no. And then he gets in the ring, and thank God Owens just said Elias. And I had just the biggest shit-eating grin on my face because I was like, you WWE universe people, how do you not know your own guy? But I was very proud of myself for catching that before they said it. And the fans were digging it up. They were eating up the I'm not Elias, I'm Ezekiel, and the comedy of it. As silly as it was, as stupid as it was fun. And the crowd ate it up. And Owen sold it beautifully.
Danny, this is now your new favorite bit on Raw, right?
Oh my God. Yes, it is so good. So like I don't know how many people watch Community, but there's an episode where they're trying to film a commercial and the dean kind of goes a little mad with power, and Annie's his assistant, and she has a talking head segment where she's like, the dean is a genius. He has to be. Otherwise, I've given the last 2 weeks of my life to an idiot, and that's unacceptable. And that's how I feel about this. Like, this is so dumb, but it's brilliant. It's like really brilliant. It's so self-aware, or I'm taking it as self-aware. It has to be self-aware. Otherwise, it's stupid. And that's unacceptable to me. So it is fantastic. He comes out looking like a weird mix between Damian Sandow, Mike Piazza, and Chris D'Elia without the creepiness, but clean shaven, like what the fuck, and just the way he's gaslighting Kevin. Kevin made this too. It doesn't work as well without Kevin Owens to be the one to be like, Elias? Like, no, you're Elias.
Where the fuck have you been?
The crowd chanting, yes, you are, when he was like, no, I'm not. And the crowd literally immediately was like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Amazing. This has so much potential. And when I'm saying, like, I'm singing this praise, this is a lower mid-card comedy act, but it is fantastic. Mizdow was amazing. This has Mizdow potential. This is so good. It's so stupid, but it's so enjoyably stupid. And you know what? Props to Elias, because you're leaving a gimmick that is super over and doesn't need tweaking, doesn't ever need to be fixed. You have a job for life with that. Like, that's so simple. You could literally just be Elias forever and play the guitar. But here he is doing something that could be just fucking hilarious. This is the kind of self-aware meta comedy that WWE needs right now.
So I would just like to say one thing, which is very intriguing to me. They've had this new gear for Elias set for a while, because people who have been data mining 2K22 found an image of Elias with the full Elias beard in this gear, like this new gold, like the trunks, everything that it's in the game, which means that they've been, for months at the very least, have been waiting to do something with him that's been different.
Well, they did the Elias is dead vignettes like almost a fucking year ago at this point.
Yeah. I don't know what I think the beard. I think him shaving the beard is just so they could say he's not Elias anymore. He's Ezekiel. I think that's the only reason he shaved the beard. And oh God, for a gimmick like the Elias character, it to this day it blows my mind he did not win a title. I'm not saying the main title, but the Elias character easily could have been Intercontinental or United States champion.
He was 24/7 champion. Okay.
When you're right, he is exactly at the same level as Dana Brooke. Same
Dana wishes.
All right, James, I want one last story out of you, and let me set this up. It's like the middle of Raw, and we get an all caps text from James. Guys, I'm freaking the fuck out, and then followed with all caps. The guy next to me picked his nose and wiped it in his beard. James, I need the story in full. because this is one of the greatest texts I've received in my life.
Like, describe this person, like body type, like what was he wearing? Did he have a wrestling shirt on? Like
skinny.
Okay.
Not a huge beard, like a little thicker than mine, a little thicker than yours. Didn't have long hair. He was wearing like a wrestling like t-shirt and I think a hoodie. And
wrestling was a t-shirt.
I wasn't paying attention. I was just too taken aback. And sitting between myself and him was, I believe, his girlfriend, which even more just wow. But just no regard for himself or anybody around him, just starts scratching his brain and then goes like this. He just combs it in. And I am like 90% certain his girlfriend saw me texting that to you guys, because she looked in my direction and then look away as fast as possible, as would I. And I think a part of my soul died with that nostril scratch. Because look, I think we all know wrestling fans have a reputation for not being the most hygienic.
Yes, the yearly post on Square Circle telling everybody to fucking shower.
And sometimes I think that's not fair, because take it from me, take it from somebody who sits through wrestling events for 5 hours, 6 hours. Doesn't matter how much deodorant you put on, doesn't matter how diligent you are in the shower beforehand. You're going to start to smell a little bit by the end of the main event. It's going to happen. But this guy, he almost ruined the weekend for me. And I'm not proud of it. I'm an adult. I should be able to deal with these things like an adult. But when I tell you I wanted to shed my skin and run, my God. If you're watching this, stranger of the night, know that you are haunting my soul. Know you are haunting my dreams. And know that I have so many questions, because as a man with a beard myself, who hurt you? Why do you think this is okay? Why?
So would you say that, to quote our fellow New Yorkers from AEW, that it's on site, this guy?
If by on site you mean if I see him, I'm going to run the fuck away. Yes, absolutely. On site, I will be out of sight, because how much right now, my body is tensing up again just thinking about it. I needed to wash my hands afterwards.
Thank you, random person, for completely misusing your flavor saver. I wish you guys could see James's face. Oh man! All right, let's end the show before this gets even further out of hand. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, which included a very extended recap of James's weekend. But I hope it gave you some insight into what's going to WrestleMania is like when you travel. So be sure to like and subscribe, as we say every week. When we hit 100 subscribers, James will wrap and dye some part of his hair green, which will be awesome. Check out all of our social media stuff that will be below in the description for all the links. So for myself, Nick Cummings, Danny Hernandez, and James Gisante, thank you so much for watching. And we'll catch you next time here on the Market Down Podcast. Have a good one, everyone.